Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. I'm still on vacation. I didn't bring a YouTube out yesterday because I actually had too many drinks the night before and I was struggling a bit yesterday, to be absolutely frank with you. I'm still struggling a bit today. Those hangovers when you're getting a bit older don't hit the same. Still feel rough today, to be fair. But let's get into what is going on. Less about me, more about what's going on in crypto. My laptop's just going nuts because I've just started filming. But let's talk about the previous two collapses that are being compared to this. So just for comparison's sake, FTX and COVID were both around the $2 billion-ish mark in terms of liquidations. This event was about 20 billion as far as rougher estimations go so far, but obviously the APIs were down that like track liquidations, etc. So this could in fact be a lot bigger. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing it up because I'm going to compare the last two crashes. So let's start from COVID C19 between February the 20th and April the 7th, which is this area here. This is February 20th and then March, and then April is actually like here. We've started the recovery already. But I want to show you something about this pullback capitulation sort of event. So this is where it is. We have the liquidation event there. I'm going to take us down into the daily. Let's see if this brings us there or not. It seems up. I'm going to take us down to the day and I'm going to show you why this is important. On the daily, what we did is we chopped around. We had a big liquidation event. And then we still did wick up outlook in this area for a little while. We still had a week or 2 weeks of violent price action from swung on Bitcoin specifically 35% from highs to low there. And then even 2 days later, how far did we swing? 25% from highs to low there. And even when we nearly like on the way to recovery, 20% swing on that day as well. So this is the liquidation event, and even with the recovery, we did swing about up and down. This is one of the things, and I'm going to make a point about this in a second, but this is why I've been saying to you guys, even if we do view bottom, I think the best play is to DCA slowly because you might get the opportunity. For example, we did push up the last few days in the current price times, and then you might get the opportunity to get in slightly lower, but you also might not. Like this is realistically just chop back to the upside, and then we're going to get back into now we're going to have a look at FTX. But the thing I wanted to mark here is that this liquidation event, no matter what people said, this marked the bottom, not the top. Okay, so we're comparing it to COVID and we're comparing it to FTX, and both of these events actually marked the lows. Yes, we did have some sideways chop to go, but pretty much the low was in on the day or the next few days after that event. Okay, that's a more V-bottom sort of recovery out of there from the C19 crash. And then we actually went to set exponentially higher highs. So even if you go from the lows to the highs, this is the lows to the highs, it was actually here. But we'll just use the first rally. It does 1,500%-ish, about 15x. And if you go from the place where the capitulation took place to the high, it's a 700%, so 7x. Now, I'm not suggesting that we do that, but I'm just giving you an example. Now, going into the FTX crash, which is here, FTX in November of 2022. This is November 2022. This is the FTX collapse. Boom, we came down. We did in this situation revisit the lows, but realistically, you're chopping. You're looking for a difference in price in this area of about 12%. So you could have got in 12% lower. And even on the recovery from FTX, we did whipsaw like up and down, and even in this instance, we did come down 10% after having a significant rally off the bottom. Like let's say this is the low, rally 19%, pulled back 10, and then started the real recovery. Reclaimed the range of where we went down from, came up, retested that range, and then started to send again for new all-time highs, which is this cycle. And so far, if we look at how far we've come from that level, so you can say from the bottom, we've done 700%, or from the area reclaiming where the crash came in, we've done 500%. Okay, so I know this is going to look as extreme, but it is in terms of. I'm not saying we can't whip around in this area, and that's basically what I said to you the other day when I came on YouTube, not yesterday, day before. I said, look, when we have these large liquidation events, it's like a bottom and you've been wobbled and you're still trying to find your feet. And sometimes you can come out swinging and start to bounce back up pretty quickly. But even then, like, your head's still spinning and stuff until you find your feet, or sometimes it wakes you up and says it's go time, or sometimes you get hit again and you take a knee. And either of these situations could occur here. I don't know which one's going to happen. But what I do know is, if we use the last two capitulation events as history and proof, then they're good times to start DCAing. And that's why I said the other day, if you've got cash, DCA. If you're sitting in the spot, don't worry about it. Like, that's if you're of the belief that we continue higher this market. And I am of that belief. I know people out there aren't, and they might be right. They might be. But I've sat here and told you the whole time that I have some cash just to live off, and the rest of my portfolio is spot, and that's it. And I do sometimes take leverage trades, and I talked to you about them when I did very well on ENA at the start of the year. And we broke even on our Doge trade because we closed that out before what happened. And they're about the two main positions that I've taken this year. I had a few small positions like on XRP that got wiped when this crash happened. But they were nothing in comparison to the size of ENA and Doge that I kept. The ones that I ran on about, the ones that are my biggest positions, a huge one in ENA, went up 100%, which was great. And then we had Doge, which did rally, but didn't take any profit, and then it started to come back down. I closed it just above break even realistically, but when my funding had been taken and stuff as well, I didn't make much. But I'm happy that I did close it and protect a lot of that cash from this drop. And that was more than judgment, guys. Okay, I'm not going to say it wasn't. I was worried about the liquidity below us, but it was more luck than judgment closing that. I didn't expect to see something of these lines personally. But what am I saying then? Well, what I'm saying is this is the capitulation event here. And the last two times we've seen a capitulation event, so FTX and also C19, were bottom markers. Roughly, this was 10 times bigger than that. So take from that what you. But this was the first. This was the C19 event here. Here's C19. Here's FTX, and they're both roughly bottom markers. Okay. I can't say any more or any less than that because that's the honest truth. And this is 10 times bigger than that. So what the future might hold here, again, I'm not sure. But I'm just showing you historically when we've had these liquidation events, they've been bottom markers. And look, we've not gone a straight line after any of them, but what we have done is quite quickly V-bottom recovered on the FTX crash. On the COVID crash, on the FTX crash, we went sideways for a bit and then slowly chopped our way up. And I don't know which one of those we're going to do, or either. I'm showing you they're what probably comes next. Within a year, realistically, for less. Have a look at the time frame here for C19. We'll go accurate on time and price this time. Within a year for C19 from the bottom, we'd done a 15x, a year and a bit. But then obviously we chopped and went for the very highs. So a year and a bit would take us to like Christmas of next year, probably. Makes sense, doesn't it? Say around here. Yeah, that's obviously November 2026. If we did a 50x, guys, it's a big price. $1.7 million of Bitcoin. And I don't think we get that. Not right now, unless something significant happens in the financial system, which is always possible in the minute, but I'm not going to put my cards in that basket. I'm just showing you in terms of what's happened previously. So that's the main thing I want to come on to discuss with you guys, because I know that there's a lot of FUD out there still, and there's going to be, because people are emotionally hurt. They're seeing a few days of green, and then, God, today red again. What does this mean? Like, what I thought everyone would have sold by now. There's no leverage to be flushed out, so how can we go down? I'm showing you that even in those cases, historically, we have still whipped about around the bottom. In this position more than ever, people are throwing the towel in. People have lost their stability, emotional stability, and these are the times to capitalize if you're market makers. Even traders start moving the really shift the price about with not a lot. So that's something that I really wanted to take you guys through. I think it's time to be buying altcoins. I'm going to show you Bitcoin dominance. I haven't got a solid thesis on dominance. I did think that we would continue downwards, and I'm going to show you a few examples of what's happened historically. I have discussed this before, but it wasn't my base case. I'd admit that straight up. I'll put it on the weekly first. I have discussed this before where we've had these drops and then we did retest or at least push back up and then we continued to drop. And then we had the drop and we did push back up and continue to drop. Now, we've had the drop. Is it enough of a push back up for us to continue to drop? I did think we were going to just straight continue to the downside. When you take us to the lower time frames, like the 4 hour, these patterns are continuation patterns. And I would even suggest that this wick has taken liquidity or would do something like that because the same structure still sits here. If we start to lose that level, you could see a quite quick collapse in Bitcoin dominance. I think alts are going to lead the show from here. That's essentially what my base case is. I've shown you why I think Bitcoin specifically is going to recover, and looking at this chart, I think it's only a matter of time, and I think Bitcoin dominance does lose strength. Now, having said that, let's have a look at what altcoins I think will do well. ETH looks pretty strong. It held the support that we've discussed. Again, we talked about when we got these areas of oversold, they usually mark lows. What happens in the short term, I don't know. Let's have a look at some sort of structure. Like this area, does this get retested? Well, if it does, what would this look like? Let's get a little rectangle. It would be something like this. See a little retest in there. Something like that. Something along those lines comes into there. We make a higher low on the RSI, or maybe even we make a lower low on the RSI, but I highly doubt that because I don't think the RSI can come down to 16. I think this is the low for ETH. Could we come a little bit further down? Yes, but like if we look at things like XRP, I highly doubt that this wick gets filled. Doesn't mean that it gets touched. It won't get touched. It might. People probably started to leverage along this area, so maybe we could flip them out, making a lower low in price action and maybe a higher low in RSI, making that bullish divergence, and we continue higher. And I'm guessing at structures. I'm not trying to trade here. Like, I still have cash on the side. I'm not trying to trade here. There is a possibility that we get another secondary flush. I've not said that that's impossible. I've shown you now the charts that they can wick around 30%, but we don't have to get it. Just the same way as what I was saying is I needed to protect my cash, and that's why I closed the Doge trade. I'm still protecting the cash right now. I also don't have my ledger with me while I'm abroad, which is kind of a blessing because I also don't want to rush into anything specifically. And I'm sitting 100%, pretty well 95% spot. Nothing of that's changed. The spot value has decreased, but it is what it is. It's crypto. It's also up, like, just this cycle. Obviously, we'll buy an XRP. My average XRP is like 45 cents. And we're at 246 and it's 95% of my spot portfolio. So we're still sitting pretty if you're an XRP holder. And I've told you all along exactly how I play the game. So you can be angry and upset at my short-term calls. I don't think the bull run's over. And I positioned it exactly like that. It doesn't matter particularly what I say if my positioning isn't matching it. My position matches exactly what I say. I've always said to buy spot. I've always said to have spot as a main part of your portfolio and have a little bit of cash. It's the way I play. And I also said there is nothing wrong with taking profits. And then I'm gonna refer to blockchain back here. I don't have a problem with him taking profits. I think if you want to take profits, that's fine. It was the way he went about it. And I know that it looks like a great call now, and I'm not disputing that. And fantastic that he's been sitting on cash. He's got 50% cash. But by definition, having 50% cash and 50% in the market shows you that he really didn't know what was coming next either way. Because that is what 50-50 is. And that's not a criticism. It's great to have 50% cash. He's done very well there. But that is just the truth. That's that. Like, I'm not trying to throw any shade on him. I've never tried to throw shade on him specifically. I've not agreed. And I still sit here and say I don't think the top's in. I've just shown you the reasons why I don't think the top's in. And he does. And maybe he's right, but maybe he's not. And my opinion is that he's not. And I'm positioned along with my opinion that I'm in spot. And I think that we go up. Exactly where from? I've just shown you the reasons why I don't know for sure. But if you have some cash on the side here, these discounts. And I said even in my video today, flare come and retest the bottom of the range again. Maybe. Again, I don't know what what we need to start seeing is some strength. And I do think that comes, but I think it probably comes when the people who are on the fence about selling have sold, and then they're like, no, I can't do this anymore. Because that's what normally happens, unfortunately. You get to these points, people are like, oh, God, like, still no green. Like, oh, we've had this flush, like, we've gone all the way down here, I've managed to hold, or I missed it because I was asleep or something. Oh, and I can't take it if it comes all the way down. And look, it might. It might. I don't know the future. I don't know the future, but I'm positioned that I think we're going to go up because that is what I think. No more and no less than that. I think that alts are on a big discount right now. I wouldn't be buying things are like memes in this momentum, like because they're like momentum based. I don't think we have momentum right now. I think that some fundamental altcoins will do pretty well. And I'm seeing all over the world announcements of the big boys getting involved, and you're giving them a discount to top up their bags. And at some point, we will go higher because they don't want to buy it at a low and sell it. They won't sell it at a lower price than what they buy, is what I'm trying to say. So if they're buying here, all these legislations are coming out and people are potentially buying. You're selling your crypto to them at this price. Do you not think they're going to send it higher over time? I personally do. I think CRV is on a decent discount. We haven't quite managed to reclaim this range. It looks like this has been pretty violated, so we'll just get rid of that. But this is what I'm watching here for CRV. Let's show you. This is what we're watching for CRV. This is basically the low support here. I'll be buying anywhere between, if CRV comes back down towards like 55 cents, which it really nearly is, it's probably a decent area to buy. Let's have a look. I also think ENA is probably not a bad shout to be buying, because one of the things that happened is ENA's USDE got attacked on Binance only. And so it got beaten up pretty badly. But CRV anywhere in this region here between 54 cent and 49 cent, I think is a good buy. Let's have a look at CRV, ENA, sorry. ENA was this. This is the region that I said would be a decent buy. Anyway, I closed my ENA quite a lot on it. What I said is if we come back to this area, I'll be buying. We actually did the area quite nicely. If we get back and another nice little test here, I think that again, I'd be probably looking at entering into ENA here, about 39 cent if we can get that, between 39 and 31. Maybe we flush the lows again on ENA. Again, I don't know, but 39 cent is probably a decent place to start DCAing. And what did we say for CRV? At around 55 cent. I think Flare's an absolute buy here, to be honest. Anywhere between here and the bottom of the range at 0.16 cent is probably a bargain. I think XRP is just a buy. Like, I just think it's a buy. I think it's one of the best charts in the markets, and we've discussed this. I went in quite deep into my last videos on this. Nothing's changed structurally with XRP. Lovely wick down, destroyed all the longs. If we look on this specifically, this is on Binance, we retested the highs, like previous range highs. I've thrown a Fibonacci retracement just on this recent move, and that would take us out towards my $8 to $12 short-term price target. And I do think we have a further leg than that actually this cycle. There's potential we're somewhere in here. This is what I think. I know some people think we're in here, and we could be because of that liquidation wick that happened in December of 2017. But we also could be in this area here. And if we're in that area, then we've got not just one leg up and some consolidation, but actually a last leg as well. And I do think that that's possible. I think things will change pretty quickly. I think that the catalyst will be the ETFs, because everyone's so sure that ETFs are short-term negative, but I think they'll be a positive for the markets, especially after a flush and liquidation event like we've seen. So that's essentially everything that I've got for you. I think Doge is probably a decent buy too. I think Doge, Litecoin, I think all these top few assets are going to get ETFs coming in. I'll be looking at the like 1.618 to the 2.618 at least in the short term. And the reason for that is that BNB has already set the tone, and it's doing that. BNB got all the way up to close to the 2.618, hasn't quite made it yet, which will be at about $1,500, but it's still ripping even after what has happened. You've got altcoins like Dash, I'll take you to the daily. Obviously, privacy tokens were doing pretty well, but even altcoins like Dash, it did manage to set a new high even after the liquidity event. So that's another sign for me to say I think altcoins are showing some signals that they could continue to go higher here. Now, Dash obviously is at the top of a range. Expect volatility across the board, but they're what I'm watching, okay? And I hope you understand my thought process. think you understand where and why I'll be bidding things at certain prices, and you understand what I think is going to come in the next few days to weeks. It's like, I think we recover in the next week or two. I don't know exactly when, and I don't know the structure because I've given you two examples of previous liquidation events and different recoveries. But I do think both lead to recovery, and historically these events have equaled a low-ish, just about. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, stay safe out there. If you none of what I say is financial advice, of course, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insider would say.